Crazy weekend here at Training Think Tank. On Friday, the road qualifier workouts came out. On Saturday, we had a bunch of athletes do a 12-mile ruck challenge. And on Sunday, we went to a NASCAR race where one of our TTT athletes is part of a NASCAR pit crew. So Wadapalooza, Travis hurt his hand. He had to sit out the 2023 CrossFit Games season. We had to rehab through the hand. He picked road qualifier as the first qualifier that he was gonna do to go to a big competition.
He's one of the few people that literally can take, he legitimately took like a full 6 months where he wasn't training hard. He was doing like less training than me at one point, which isn't much at all. And then like ramp back up and in 3 or 4 weeks, like be a professional athlete again. Like basically, sorry. His ability to get back in shape and tolerate volume is just like on a level that I've never seen from anyone else. Like his ability to 2 months ago not even be near the volume that he's doing right now in intensity, and then just all of a sudden like flip a switch and just get motivated to go do it is crazy.
So road qualifier is interesting. It only takes 5 people. Everybody wants to go. Biggest prize purse basically in the sport. Top 15 athletes are already qualified.
I haven't had the normal season leading up to what I normally do, right? Like usually you see what happens at semifinals, you can kind of see how you're ranked, then you see what happens at the games, and then you kind of had a gauge of like where your actual fitness is at. Well, I've had no gauge because I've been out and then injury and then popped in with some of Alexis's stuff, but like not an actual full training cycle. You need to execute on each workout, and knowing they only take 5, I think automatically builds up that anticipation.
So Friday morning started like many CrossFit competitions with us waiting for information. We got here 9 o'clock. Travis is somebody who's usually up early, ready to go. 9 o'clock is the deadline for when the workouts come out, and we're all just kind of like wah, wah, waiting for 45 minutes before they actually come out. And then when the workouts come out, Travis is basically like Mach 3 to get ready to go. He's like, you read the directions, that's your job. And it's like 15 pages of stuff, all these fine little details about how to get the weights and what needs to be in film and what the floor plans look like. We're trying to get that done as quick as possible to set him up for success. So we decided workout number 4 was gonna be the best one for Travis to start with, which was a bunch of wall-facing handstand push-ups and heavy snatches. We weren't really sure where his snatch was gonna be. He hadn't really hit a big number like his 300-pound snatches that he was doing before the hand injury. So we wanted to make sure that he was as fresh as possible for the 245-pound bar. And we decided that Ashley would be a really good person to do that workout head-to-head with, because we thought that her barbell cycling capacity might make it an actual good race that could maybe pull a little bit of performance out of him.
Girl, they don't call me Big Salchicha for nothing. Of course I whoop that big bird's ass.
Ashley's like a party, like a moving party. She's not trying to be the center of attention, but she almost ends up being the center of attention just because her personality is like a little bit louder, it's a little bit eccentric. She's definitely caring, she definitely like wants like to be good at this sport, but it's like she doesn't take herself too seriously, and I think that's like super enjoyable from her.
Ashley started out as a team games athlete around the same time as Alexis, and she's kind of emerged mostly on teams in the games. So she was on a team last year. She's been on a previous team, I think 2018, and just decided, we had a conversation last year that we were gonna give it a go in the individual division.
So Ashley's one of my favorite athletes here at TTT. She trained on site for this whole year, so I got to watch her train more often this year. I didn't really have a concept for how good or how competitive she could be. I knew that she was really strong, really talented, had been on a games team. She's got a good personality, and she always references that I got that dog in me.
I feel like you can just look at that dude. It looks like he's just ready to unleash something at any time, but he's just like walking around like this, but bald. He's got that dog in him.
Semifinals was kind of like a turning point for her, where I think she actually started to believe that, you know, she can hang with the girls that are the best in the world.
I narrowly missed the games this year, and shit was rough, kind of sucked.
That was like between her and Annika going in for like that final spot, and they're going through the announcements, and Annika and Ashley are kind of standing next to each other.
Hey, Samantha!
Both of them kind of embrace each other, like hoping to make it, but I think they shared like the camaraderie of that moment of we tried our hardest to like make it happen. It was just something special to see.
I did promise to her that if she was in contention on the last workout of the semifinals, that I would wear a purple belly shirt for her as a show of appreciation for her.
But as a result of that, I got an invite to go to the demo team, which initially I thought that kind of sucked because demo team is looked at as like the first losers, but I thought it brought a lot of gifts competing with athletes that are super high skilled, so I was able to take away a lot of lessons from them.
So workout number 4, that first one we did, it went really well. Ashley actually beat Travis. I don't know if I was expecting the girls to go that much faster, but it seemed like the handstand push-ups were a little bit negligible, and the barbell cycling at the end was much more of a time contributor.
I think we got into round 5, and I could still see she was catching pretty high in the power and cycling it pretty quick, and I was not doing that the same. But I think it was a good gauge for me to stay on a quicker pace than what I might have felt comfortable with, just to be able to try to be close with her and beat her.
I think the benefit of racing sometimes is like if an athlete isn't really sure what their pace is going to be or think that another athlete's going to push them, it can really help.
And we get to the bar at 2:05, and I knew that 2:05, 2:25, 2:45 was going to be the most important part of the workout. He goes to snatch 2:05, wobbles and misses, and I was like, uh-oh.
I felt my hips shoot up off the ground, ended up missing the bar a little forward, dropped, reset, grabbed chalk, and was able to hit it pretty quick right away.
It ended up not being a big deal, but it definitely stopped my heart for a second in the middle of that workout.
Oh, beating Travis just feels so good. It doesn't happen often, so when it does, I just gotta like jam it down his throat.
Leading up to the week, I looked at the weather and I was like, it's going to be very warm.
So we try to get the workouts done as quick as possible when they come out, because we're in Georgia, we're in this big warehouse building with no air conditioning, and if it gets into the heat of the middle of the day and it's a long, high respiration workout and you get super hot, it can actually make you go slower.
Good old Hotlanta is a real thing.
It was hot as hell. Throughout the course of living here, it hasn't been that hot, but the whole month of August, shit was popping off. It was so hot, it was over 100.
So we kind of had this like antsy desire to get going as quickly as we possibly could.
I mean, so we have 2 big-ass fans, we have a stand-up big-ass fan, and then a couple other ones on the side, and then another just like stand-up one. So I felt like, depending on where you are in the gym, it's hotter in some areas, and so you try to get to the coolest spots, set that up. So at certain point in times, she went right before I did, and then mid-workout, they would bring the fan back over to where I was to finish it.
The second workout they chose to do was the overhead squat one.
Hey, buddy! Hey! Travis did that workout, and I watched through the whole portion of the Metcon and thought, like, okay, that was a good execution. Nothing great, nothing really like blew my mind in terms of how good it was.
And when she went to warm up for it, she's just, this bar is very, very heavy, like this doesn't feel good.
But the thing that really stood out was he went to do his first overhead squat. He goes to jerk it. It was 225 pounds, so pretty light for Travis. And he wobbled and almost ran into the actual rig, and it really was like, oh shit, this, like, do I need to change where his numbers are gonna go?
I was too timid in the beginning. I could never really make the time back up. And I mean, both of those movements are pretty taxing, like a bar muscle up and a heavy thruster. So even with being a little bit more reserved, I was super exhausted. And going into the overhead squat, I wanted to make up for that and just opened way too heavy. Just kept failing, and couldn't really get something good under my belt.
But respect to him that he like centered himself, ended up hitting a good number and figuring out how not to let that miss really define the workout for him.
I'm trying to become a fire bitch, so we had the chief of our town come in, low-key kind of interview me in the middle of the day. Everybody was really confused because nobody knew I was trying to do that.
Next thing you know, she's meeting with the chief of Alpharetta, like in the front lobby, just having a conversation.
So it turns out there's gonna be 2 fire bitches on site. We got one girl coming in, Chloe. She's been handing off the fire hose to me and is hooking me up with some fire bitch knowledge, and we've been chatting it up.
Travis Mayer, Rogue Invitational, workout number 3, training Think Tank Elite Men.
So while Max and Travis were going to the gym for day 2 setup of Rogue, we had another group doing a 12-mile ruck.
So we were doing a podcast about endurance, and Brandon brought up the idea of doing this ruck challenge where we do the military standard ruck, which is 12 miles under 3 hours with 35 pounds.
So the night before Kyle and I were set to podcast, I was just like scrolling YouTube. I saw this like ruck challenge on there.
I've never done anything that is like that level of an endurance challenge, and as soon as he brought it up, I was like 100% in.
To get under 3 hours, you have to average 15 minutes, which means you're not walking.
And then Kyle and I talked about it after, just kind of like, yeah, that'd be a good idea, let's just do it. But then all of a sudden we started getting some comments. I had a couple people message me, I had someone email me, and so I was like, Kyle, we actually have to do this.
I was impressed with how organized it was, but I wasn't really surprised.
Getting started, we set up a training program, and I think that was like the base of the whole thing. Is Brandon and I spent a lot of time putting together a 12-week ruck training program so that anyone that decided to do it could be successful. They could get done, and whether or not successful is under 3 hours, or under 3.5 or 4, is dependent on where they're starting, but we wanted everyone to have success. So that was the first part. The second thing is, organizing it, we needed to have aid stations. We knew that, in Georgia in August, this was gonna be so hot. And we knew we needed to come up with a way for people to be able to kind of come in, have checkpoints, make sure that they were okay.
We had weigh-in, we had the course measured, we had water stations. Like, it was very clear that his concern for safety was really high.
We came up with a 4-mile loop that basically ran through my neighborhood. Some wooded sections, some road sections, a lot of uphill, a lot of terrain, and once we got the whole thing organized, it turned out to be a pretty damn good course.
It made the experience really fun. Like, it actually felt like a legit event that I paid and signed up and went to.
I actually agreed to do the Ruck Challenge and forgot that the Ruck Challenge was on the same weekend as Rogue, so I pulled out last minute, and
Oh, real nice.
yeah, I owe the community a 12-mile ruck. But overall, I think that the idea of doing challenges like that throughout the year, and maybe more importantly, getting outside of the gym and doing things in nature is super important. I think that is really more functional fitness than the sport of fitness that we do, which is not really something you would do unless you were in the gym training.
What's funny is like 2 days before we looked at the weather, and anybody that had an iPhone got an alert that said this weekend there was a heat wave, and it's like, what do they call it? Like a heat advisory, don't go outside, whatever. And so Kyle sent me the screenshot, and then right after Kyle sent it to me, Mike sent me the same screenshot.
I mean, I was texting Brandon and Kyle, like, hey, can we start at 8? Like, it's gonna be hot as shit.
Chris and I, basically, we kind of went together. Chris was filming, like running with his iPhone to film as we went through it.
I was just more impressed he did it in Crocs.
Man, that's wild.
I don't even think I could do a 5K in a ruck, let alone Crocs.
But he did. He did 12 miles, so I can't hate on him.
Now, they were in sport mode, so I mean, he was moving. But Chris doing the thing in Crocs, like, I didn't even finish the thing.
You did the elite version, we did the RX version.
Yeah, buddy.
That's fair.
I feel like you should get a sponsorship through Crocs too, by the way.
It was Allie, me, Chris all together, and then it was like everyone kind of separated. And that's where I think all the crew separated. Because eventually, I mean, it gets hard to do either uphills, downhills, and people are going at different paces. And then after that, I didn't see anyone the rest of the time, which I didn't think it would bother me, but it actually like was mentally challenging because there was no one that I could see behind me to push me to go faster, and there was no one in front of me to encourage me to catch up to them. And by that last lap, it was like an hour and a half of not seeing anybody, and that got a little, I don't know, it was like almost like frustrating at that point.
So Saturday we come in, first workout is legless rope climb, dumbbell lunges, devil's press. We knew that this was gonna be grippy whippy, and it wouldn't be the easiest workout to do because the cost of a miss on a legless rope climb is basically that your workout's over.
Oh God, that workout was another hot mess express. That one, I got no reps on a rope climb, which immediately you come down and you're ready to fight after that, as in my judge not fighting the workout.
Who was your judge?
Technically it was Perrin, and she was like, nah, that one didn't count. And then I like side-eye John, and he's like, nah. So I just kind of wanted to grab both of them and be like,
Then we come in and we got the final workout to do, which is the chipper. Me and him actually talked about potentially not doing this workout at our gym and going to an AC facility. And he was like, no, it's not gonna bother me. I'm gonna handle it. It'll be fine. We work out in the heat all the time. His face was white. He was covered in sweat. We had fans a foot away from him in front of him, another one on the side. He asked for the fan to be turned up. And my first thought when we finished is like, that's gonna be an important one to repeat.
Okay, workout 2 sucked. Why? Because your girl isn't good at toes to bar. I feel like I was holding on for dear life the whole time. My heart rate was at about a 180 and I kind of blacked out.
So Brandon is probably one of the fittest dudes to not compete in CrossFit. Brandon finished the thing in like 2.5 hours. So he was like 30 minutes under the standard.
I hate Brandon's fitness sometimes. Brandon is either secretly like hammering out training so he shows up and can nonchalantly pretend like he's just a beast, or Brandon has a different set of heart, lungs, and pain tolerance than the rest of us. I thought it was real impressive that he did 2.5 hours on that.
I will say, the last lap was absolutely brutal. Like, it got so hot, it's like 100-something degrees, and then the last mile is all uphill, and basically it was like a slow walk.
Oh, crap, that sun is bright. Okay, come on, this can't really be the way I go out. So hot. This is how I'm gonna die.
The pickle juice king, Kyle Ruth, had to pull out with 1 mile due to severe quad calf and full body cramps.
So I felt going into this so well prepared. Like, man, I feel amazing. I feel like there's no chance I'm not gonna finish this thing under 3 hours.
I felt bad for Kyle, partly because I know that cramps suck and there's just nothing you can do about it.
I started getting extra hot. Like, everything started blowing up early, and even in the first lap. And then it was just downhill from there. I was climbing the last hill. I was less than a mile away from finishing. I was like 11.3 miles out of the 12, and my quads cramped completely. And then I decided, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna sit down for a minute. So I took my pack off and I sat on my pack. And as soon as I sat down, I got a cramp over here in this oblique, and then I got one in my lower back. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna lay down. I laid down, put my hands above my head, both lats cramped up. And I was like, I'm done.
I know that feeling when you're in full body cramp like that and you're like a powerful dude. They just don't let up, and there's just like, you're just sitting in pain.
When I got in, I was watching the other people that came in, and so I saw Melvin, Mike, and a couple other people come through, and I was like, man, where is Kyle? And then he pulled up in the bed of a truck.
I mean, he looked messed up when they pulled him up in the truck.
But you could tell, like, he was cramped, like his lower body was just completely locked up. And I mean, what do you do when it's hot out? You're not hydrated enough. Like, it just is what it is.
For somebody to be down with the cramps and it be Kyle Ruth, I just find that funny more than anything else.
I was so pissed, like, honestly, and I'm still pissed. I've tried to come up with every explanation for why why I wasn't able to finish it and why I felt good on other days. The reality is, I'm just gonna have to do it again.
Sunday we came in, we decided that the double under bar muscle up workout with the overhead squat was the most important to repeat because there was 2 scores. We had some scores from other high level people that sent us their scores, and we knew that a couple reps on the workout and a couple pounds on the overhead squat could be a major difference. So we decided to repeat it, and our first starting process wasn't great on Sunday.
He gets ready to do the workout. He looks at Max, and they start the clock, and he's standing there with the jump rope in his hand, and my brain is like yelling at me that like it's not right, like something's wrong.
Kyle comes up to me and was like, yo, is he supposed to start with the rope in his hand?
Ashley goes, yeah, you had to start behind the line, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% positive.
3, 2, 1, go. I start.
I'm like in the zone counting. I had the system where I'm keeping track on my hands and I'm saying out every 10 reps.
I grab my phone, she grabs like all of the sheets of paper, and we're both like rapidly trying to figure out what's going on and what's like the actual rules.
Then we're scrambling, we're trying to look for the workout to see where it says you can't. I find it, it says you can't.
I come out onto the floor and he had just started the workout, and I'm sitting on like the lat pull down machine, and Ashley and Habda come up to me, they're like, we think he started in the wrong spot.
I go to parents saying, do we stop him? Kyle's like, I don't know.
Do I stop him? Like, do we just let him go? Like,
Because you don't want to stop somebody unless you are 100% sure.
I look at John looks at me, I tell John what's going on, John leans over to Max.
We get to like 180 and I feel somebody back behind me like, Max. And I'm trying to count as I'm trying to keep track.
And I kind of can see out of my peripheral Perrin, Ashley, and Kyle, and then they all kind of start talking.
Then John finally comes up, takes charge like the man he is, taps Max on the back and was like,
He started in the wrong spot.
190, 200, and I turn and look over.
He kind of scowls at me, like you could see there's like confusion and just hatred in his eyeballs looking at me.
And like, you didn't start from behind the line.
Travis drops his rope, was like, you couldn't fucking tell me that 30 seconds ago, and then runs off.
He's pissed off at me. He says, oh, you have one job, as if I didn't need to help get it set up and all the filming and all this other stuff. And to be honest, it was just an error. Like, I heard afterwards that Habdo and Perrin thought about it but weren't 100% sure, so they spent the time looking. I wish they had said something at rep like 20 and just taken the risk, like, oh, it's okay, it's only 20 double unders, but it definitely got in Travis's head, and he verbalized like, man, I just did 200 double unders, and I'm like, all right, well, what do you want to do? Don't turn off the cameras yet.
We've already weighed the plates for the overhead squat. We weighed everything, like, we'll start over in a couple minutes.
I was pissed at myself, to be honest, because I just don't like making mistakes like that. I feel like we try to hold a professional standard, and then that is like, shit, I did not do my job well.
It wasn't great, but it could have been much, much worse. It was better that he wasn't like halfway through the workout.
So that sucked, but it ended up being really good. Travis ended up controlling his focus, resting 5 or 10 minutes, goes out, does 200 double unders again, and fucking crushes it. So it made me feel good that we're definitely making progress between the ears. He got a couple reps better. We had a better game plan for the overhead squats. He ended up hitting a bigger overhead squat, better on the lifts, great repeat day, and that was it for Sunday. We decided we didn't need to repeat anything else that day. We'd come back on Monday and try to take on the day.
So Chris and I got to go to the NASCAR race here in Atlanta, and man, definitely was completely different than what I expected going in. So we got there and we got the full VIP treatment from our good friend Jeff Cordero. So Jeff really does it all. He's a CrossFit athlete in the Compete program. He's the front tire changer for the historic number 24 car, which right now is the best team in NASCAR. And he's a bow hunting athlete. He's a sponsored bow hunter. It's the best way to put it. And he basically took us into the trailer. We got to check out the cars, and like we were in the pit box for most of the race.
I didn't get to go down to this week's race with Chris and Kyle, but I have went with Chris to see Jeff in action, and that was a pretty cool experience. I was just amazed by the spectacle. First of all, how many people, thousands of people that are there, the digital technologies that keep the coaches connected with the people that are spotting, connected with speaking to the drivers, the unified teamwork, the amount of money that operates it, and then also watching Jeff's job, which is basically get on, have a gun. Back then it was multiple gunshots to take the lug nuts off, take a tire off, and shoot them every time. And it's this one very specific skill that he had to have repeated millions and millions of times to get to this level of accuracy, and it's one of the most important parts of running the entire show. I thought that was interesting because you see the high-level athletes that are propped up on the pedestal, but they can't be there without every component of their team being polished and dialed in. So it was very cool to like watch the orchestration of this magical big dance and see almost see it in contrast to what's happening in the CrossFit Games and watch it with that lens. So I very much enjoyed.
And one of the coolest things, Chris and I got to go up into the actual team's pit box in the middle, and we were getting to listen to the spotter in the middle of it. And then all of a sudden, freaking Jeff Gordon, the legend of NASCAR, pops into the box and is like, hey, nice to meet you guys. Once the race started, man, it was a completely different experience. Seeing the cars coming up in pit row and everything, it was awesome. But early on in the race, they almost got knocked out. So the entire team morale dropped. And then as they went, man, they just slowly picked off car after car, started building their way back up till all of a sudden, we're at the end of the race and they're literally winning. With a few laps to go, the team came together with strategy and they ended up taking the victory. And then we're sitting in the pit box with Jeff Gordon, the legend of racing, and Chris and I are high-fiving after they freaking won the race. Then to top it all off, we got dragged with them into victory lane where they're tossing hats to us and like posing for pictures with the trophy. It was crazy.
So Monday we come in and my thought process was the chipper had to go first. It was the one that was biggest impacted by the heat. I thought that he had a lot of room for improvement on it. He went back and he reviewed his video and saw where his rest breaks were and where he thought he could improve them. And he basically said there were a couple rest breaks that got too long in between reps. So he was gonna try to go on a certain number of seconds between every single one of his sandbags. And on the dumbbell stepovers, he was gonna just break them into 10s and have a fixed rest break. So he asked me to keep count of his rest breaks for him. And I was like, all right, I can do that, but I cannot judge and also do that. So we got another judge and I literally just sat there that entire workout watching the clock. I would hear his sandbag hit the floor when he dropped it and then watch the clock and count 1, 2, 3, so that he could have an awareness of how many seconds were between all of his reps. And he was on like a freaking metronome to pick it up. When my voice hit 4 seconds or 5 seconds, he picked it up and just kept going on that cadence. He ended up going through that whole workout, dropping the hammer at the end, and I think he cut like 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes off of that first attempt, which I think was a combination of not being hot as ball or not being bleep that out. Bleep it out and give some sort of indication subtly of yeah, that I wanted to be professional.
We did it, Chris.
You did it. Are you done? Are we gonna do another one?
The only one I could do would be that. I can't do that after that.
I think that score is gonna be good.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that's come close to. Yeah.
Then we're sitting down and we're like, I don't know, you really executed these other two pretty damn well. I'm not sure if we should redo it. He thought that he had more in the tank on the snatch workout. He didn't really think that he could get better on the rope climb workout, so that was gonna be the focus. We're gonna end the day. So we get into that workout, it's going really smooth. He gets all the way through the 205 bar without a miss, and then this time he goes to take a lift at 245 and he misses. He's almost up to the point where he was in the last workout. He misses one of the heavy lifts, and I'm like, all right, well that's kind of is what it is then. He's not gonna improve on this one. But that's what I get for doubting Travis Mayer when he's under pressure. Even with that miss really close to the time, he ended up hitting all the remaining lifts, PRing on that workout by like 18 or 20 seconds. So it wasn't a huge PR like some of the other workouts, but it was still pretty impressive. And as we will see soon, every point on the leaderboard really did matter in this competition. So that's it, we're done. We sat there, we had a conversation. He repeated 3 of the 4 workouts. So I just watched this man do 1.75 times the road qualifier. He's repeated almost everything but 1 workout. He doesn't think he can improve on it. We literally had a conversation right before I left where he was like, I don't think I can get better on it. And I was like, you don't? And then they were all like, well, if your back was up against the wall, you probably could. And he's like, yeah. And that was it. His back wasn't against the wall. We thought his scores were pretty good. We thought he would be in a qualifying position, and we're done. High five, Rogue is over, and I'm going home.
So I'm sitting there at home on the counter, looking at my phone, checking the leaderboard, and this was around 6:30. And I kind of see I already dropped to 3rd at that point in time. I kind of didn't know what to do, so I text Max, hey, do you think I should redo the overhead squat? A few minutes later, hey, do you think I should do the legless rope climb one instead? He doesn't answer. So I end up calling, he doesn't answer. I text John and I was like, hey, what's Max doing? And he's like, he's at jiu-jitsu. So I was like, well, dang it, this doesn't help me at all. So then Perrin was helping all weekend, so I was like, hey, let's just call her and see. So I call her.
Like, I think I need to repeat something. And he was talking about the overhead squat bar muscle workout again. And I was like, dude, I just don't think that I think it's way too risky. You have to improve on 2 workouts. You just repeated this. It's really late. The setup would take a while. The warm-up would take a while. I'm like, legless rope climb, lunge workout. It's an easy warm-up. You just go for it, easy setup.
She goes, well, what do you want to do? And I said, just meet me at the gym. So I was like, I can be there in 20 minutes. So get to the gym. pretty much speeding to get here, putting thumb tape on in the car, getting as like prepared. I can tell my hands are shaking. I'm like getting like fired up, and I'm not even out of the car yet, but I pull in, just park, hop out, I see her running in, and then we just start warming up as fast as we can.
So I leave my jiu-jitsu class, I open my phone, and I am blowing up. Messages from multiple coaches, missed calls from Travis, text messages from Travis, and I didn't even stop to check what was going on. I kind of just looked at the time and it was like, okay, it's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock's the deadline. If he's blowing me up like this, something's gotta be going on. So I open my phone and I call him, and I could hear, you can hear Travis in Travis mode. You can hear the music and stuff going on in the background. He's like, I'm at the gym, I'm ready to go. And I was like, what the hell's going on? Apparently, while I was at jiu-jitsu, all of the scores were going into the leaderboard at the last minute, and Travis's scores pushed him all the way down to, I think he was in 7th place at that time, but he thought that he could improve by 30, 45 seconds and go from 10th or 11th where he was into a much better position, which would leapfrog him into a qualifying spot. So as Travis Mayer sometimes does as Travis Mayer, he had his back up against the wall and had to pull something out of his butt.
And then we checked one more time before the workout was about to start, and I dropped to 7th. So we knew I was already out of contention of the top 5 spot. In my head, I'm definitely more towards the side of I'm about to crush this, or I'm gonna take a risk and it's gonna backfire and I can't do anything about that.
He just went for it, and that was just wild. Like, it's just wild to see somebody when the back's against the wall, like he didn't have had a choice. He had to do it, and he was just in the zone.
10:03 came down and was immediate, just like excitement of like, you just shaved essentially almost a minute off of your original time with not a lot of warm up, not a lot of other structure besides just like, hey, you're just trusting your fitness and like being fully present in the moment.
So it took over a week for the Rogue leaderboard to finalize. There were actually some mistakes inside of the documents that displayed the standards, and Rogue acknowledged this, which I thought was pretty cool, but I think this is just another reason why I'd encourage the community in these competitions to move more towards a known and knowable model where coaches and athletes get these standards ahead of time, and maybe that gets us out ahead of these mistakes in a major competition. Anyways, when it was all said and done, Travis had moved up from 4th place to 3rd place, and he officially got his Rogue Invitational invitation. And Travis actually found out about qualifying for Rogue while he was in Madrid competing at the Madrid CrossFit Championships. He took 3rd place there, and we had a bunch of other athletes competing, so a quick shout out to Noah Olson, who was on a team and won, Annika Greer, who took 2nd place, and it was her first big check she's ever received in CrossFit at a big competition, and Mike Needleman, who was on a team, who's actually my current dance instructor, and Linda Casemount, not Cheeseman.
The weekend came and went, and I didn't end up qualifying, but I think any time that you get the chance to compete for something on the line, you really get to learn a lot about yourself.
The whole experience, the stress of it, dedicating your whole weekend to it, the ups and downs psychologically, all of those things I think are invaluable experience to becoming a better athlete, and I'm just really glad she went through it, even though we didn't qualify, and I think it's just gonna help her moving forward.
This is a weekend I'm never going to forget.
Oh, this doesn't have the bottom strap?
I was reminded of the power of teamwork and what can happen when a group comes together for a common goal.
We've got a great race team and all working hard.
Whether it's a partner to push you, an injury to navigate, a crew to help you, a setback to overcome, or an error to correct. Putting out life's little fires really is easier when you have a good team. And anything is possible when you're in sport mode.